Hey everybody, it's Dana and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to make a gorgeous card. Now the product I'm using has already been released from Altenew. This is the Craft Your Life Elegant Motifs. Now this was released a couple months ago, but unfortunately I'm now just getting to the voiceover. So it comes with a stamp set, it comes with some coordinating stencils, as well as some coordinating dies, and also this beautiful embossing folder. I absolutely love the design of this embossing folder. And today we're going to be using inks, but I'm also going to be using the new Altenew woodless coloring pencils. These pencils are awesome to lay over your inks when you're making this kind of card. And these are the colors I'm going to be using today, and that is Vineyard Berry, Dewdrops, and Warm Sunshine. So let's go ahead and start making the card. This is a piece of 5.5 by 7, I believe, piece of paper, and I'm going to be stamping this out twice because I want to get 2 images while I'm working on this card. Now I probably won't use the second one, but I'm going to go ahead and stamp it so I have a spare later. I am going to condition my stamp as well with the Altenew conditioning eraser. This really helps you maintain really crisp lines when you have to stamp with a new stamp. So I kind of clean that off with my fingers, and then I can go ahead and get started. Now I'm going to stamp this in a charcoal color. So I don't want to use black. So this is a charcoal from Altenew. And I'm going to go ahead and dab that around. Now I only have the minis, but obviously if you had the larger sizes of Altenew inks, this will go a lot quicker. Now you see I'm already getting really great crisp lines, and that's because I use the eraser. It really does help you out when you're using your stamps for the first time, so I highly recommend that. I will press that down with my tool, and again, I want to get 2 of these images. Now I did get a really great coverage on this, but I do want this to be a tad bit darker. I don't want it to look like black, but I do want this gray or this charcoal to be a little bit deeper. Now you could go ahead and use black ink on this, but for this card today, I just felt maybe having the charcoal and it's not like that really deep black will look a little bit better for my card design today. Now, once I have that stamped, all I have to do is rotate this around and go ahead and stamp this out for a second time. Now, since I have them both stamped out, we're going to get into the stenciling. Now, this stencil is pretty easy to line up, and I'm going to show you a trick if you only have 1 ink cube to do your coloring with. So I am using my little ink stand here. And I'm going to use that Vineyard Berry. Now I'm going to do a very, very light wash of this color. And this is perfect, like I said, if you do not have a lot of inks. If you build up your inks, you can really get away with layering with just using 1 ink cube. So I make sure to get my blending brush loaded with color, and then I take some of it off on my glass mat. And that's going to allow me to get a very soft color. Now, usually if I was going in heavy-handed with this, this would not be a soft color. It would really, really be deep. I'm going to switch my stencil down. I'm going to keep just that little bit of ink I have on my brush and fill in that flower. So you can see really how light that is, right? One more time, I'll show you. Very, very light hand with this, not a lot of ink. Again, I'm just picking up what's left on my glass mat. Again, that's going to give me a very, very soft color transfer, and it's not going to be a deep saturated color right now. So once I get that on there, you'll see I have 2 very light color washes. Now I'm going to come in with the details of this. And this is where this one color is going to give me a very strong color difference. Now I'm going to load my brush up. I'm going to tap some of that off, but I'm making sure I keep a lot of that ink on my brush. Now these are the smaller mini brushes from Altenew, and I like using these because they're nice and small to get into these delicate areas. Again, you can see the color difference I have with just that 1 ink cube. So again, if you don't have a lot of inks, put down a light wash of it first and then put in a deeper, more saturated layer, and you'll be able to get that color shift very, very easily. Now go ahead and line up that smaller one again. Now this is 2 times the speed. So no, I'm not really doing this quickly, just so you guys know that. I am going to clean off my glass mat here, and then I'm going to go into that warm sunshine. I'm going to do the same exact thing. I'm going to come in first with a very light hand, and that's going to give me that light color base that I'm looking for. And then I can come back in with a darker amount or more saturated color. And that's because I'm getting less the first time on my brush and then building up that color on my brush when I go in to do the second layer. So I'm coming right around those flowers, and you'll see I get a nice, very soft yellow. It's very, very soft. And what I love about these stencils is that it really gives you great depth on your images when you purchase these Craft Your Lives. I really have fallen in love with these kits, and I'll be sharing a video of another one coming to Altenew very soon. So as you can see, I'm making sure to knock off some of that color onto my glass mat, and I'm going to once again get a very soft palette. Now, if you have a lot of ink colors, and I do, I have a lot of ink colors, but I wanted to show you today that if you're very limited on your inks, then you can just use that one ink cube and you can make that work. I can actually go a little bit darker with this if I wanted to, and I will be able to get 3 shades out of that one brush and that one ink. Again, it all depends on the amount of ink that you put on your brush. I'll go ahead and line that up, and now you can see I'm coming in with a heavier hand. I'm going back to my ink pad, making sure to pick up some of that color. And then when I lift this up, you see I have that gradient going. So I'm going to spin this around one more time. And that's the beauty of stamping out 2 images at once. If I choose not to use the second one, I will have it to use for a card later. Again, I'm building up that color, making sure I go a little bit harder and more heavy-handed with this so I get that color shift one more time. So you can see I have 2 shades of yellow, really with only using one ink pad. Now I want to darken this up, and this is when the pencils are going to come in. These pencils are gorgeous for adding just a little bit of color in the places you want it, not necessarily where the stencil would put it. So I'm just going in around these leaves and adding in some of this. I think this was yellow ochre was this color. And I'm just making sure to go around that image where I think a shadow would be, especially like right on the vines. I'm going to make sure I get that color down, and they work pretty well on this paper. Now this is Neenah Solar White 80-pound cardstock, and these colors blend so smoothly on this paper. So as you can see, I'm able to get like that third color without me having to use a stencil to get that, or without me having to use an ink pad to get that. So you'll see the difference because I'm only going to color up one flower and leave the other one alone. So you'll be able to see the difference. Now I'm coming in with this red tone that is also in those woodless color pencils. And I'm adding in some deep hues with this as well. Remember, the stencil only gave me 2 layers. So my color pencils are going to give me that 3rd layer that I'm looking for. Again, I'm just adding that color here or there, making sure not to really go overboard with it. But you can totally see the difference between the image on the right and the image on the left. I did come in with a brown just to darken up some of those areas where there would be like a deeper crevice in my flower. I want to make sure those are just a tad bit darker, and you can achieve that by using a brown pencil. So I'll go back down the center of some of those leaves just to deepen up that color. And you can totally see the difference of this one on the right compared to the one I have here on the left. And that's because I use the color pencils. Now, if I want to lighten things up, like on the tips of my flowers, I always go with a white. That's really going to make those tips kind of pop off the page, make them look a little bit lighter, and they stand out just a tad bit more when you use a white pencil. All right, so that is the image, and look how gorgeous this looks. Again, the stencil only has 2 layers, so I want to get 3 layers. Now I'm going to add in some of that blue, and this is called Dewdrop, I believe. I have all the products linked below in the description, and I want to add a little stripe where I can place a sentiment. Now I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to load it up with this color. And I'm going to start bringing in that color from the side. Again, I'm using a very light hand here, and that's going to keep me from having any marks or like pressure marks. So a very light hand, and I'm going to gradually build up this color. So as I make sure to bring it from each side of the card, I am making sure that the pressure I'm using is not going to give me like the marks we usually get with some brushes if we go in too heavy-handed. So I'm just kind of tapping off the color and very lightly building up that color. Now, if you wanted to and you did not want to do this kind of background, if you had a really pretty piece of washi tape, that would work just as well. Now, when I bring this in, it's still too light for me. I really need to deepen up this color because the sentiment I'm using is in gold. Now, the sentiment is from the Thanks circle die. I just happened to cut off the circle part and I just used the Thanks. That color's too soft. That gold is really going to get lost. So I need to really make sure I build up this color so I have a nice gradient of color on my card, but it also allows for that sentiment to have a nice place to land, as well as that gorgeous flower we created. Once that color is built up, and you can see how nice and soft it looks in the center of the card because I used that light hand. Now you can see that the flowers look perfect with this color, and so does that Thanks. It does not get lost anymore on this background. Now I can go ahead and set this aside, and we're going to go ahead and build up the card base. Now the card base is just Neenah Solar White 120-pound cardstock. You guys know, like, this is my favorite go-to. It's probably what I use most of the time between this and the Hero Art Dove White. I can go ahead and crease my card, and we can go ahead and get ready to put this card together. So again, all the products I used are going to be linked in the description box below. And like I said, this stamp set has already been released, but at the time of me making this video, this Craft Your Life Kit Elegant Motif was still available. So I just used some tape runner for this piece here, and I trimmed down this piece so I have a nice white border from the card base. I'll go ahead and press that down, smooth that over, and now I can bring in that flower. Now, if these colors look very familiar to you, they should, because these, I always work with my block colors, which are yellow, teal, and red, because I just think they make such a beautiful color combination. If you also watched my Christmas series, you also realize it was also in my Christmas series that I did in the color combo guide that Christina Warner and I put together. Okay, I can go ahead and press that down on the side. And again, this gives me a gorgeous backdrop. Now I can come in with that gorgeous Thanks. I love the gold on this. Now, because I'm putting partially this Thanks on top of the flower, I'm going to cut some pieces out of white to stack up behind the part that's going to be hanging off of the card, because I want those sections to be even with each other. Again, if you're putting something on top of something else, make sure you kind of stack it up so that you can get a good lift and everything works seamlessly against your card. Otherwise, the top part of the Thanks is not going to be even with the bottom part of the Thanks. Now, you could use foam tape for this, but I just went ahead and die cut this out 2 more times, and then I'll just go ahead and stack that behind the gold piece so all of my sentiment will be level. I am just using some Barely Arts glue here, and I went ahead and stacked everything, and now I can place that down on the card, and I know that my sentiment is going to be even on my card. That's just a little tip if you're ever putting a sentiment on top of something else. Now, to finish off this card, I did want to add a little bit more gold. So I do have some gold sequins. This gold sequins has been in my stash for a while, but I know you can get some from Pretty Pink Posh, and Lucy's Gems, I believe, has some as well. And I'm just going to scatter those onto my card front. Again, just pulling in a little bit more of that gold onto my card. And once I place that last one on, my card is done. So again, this is the Altenew Craft Your Life Elegant Motif. Thank you guys for stopping by today. I hope I've inspired you to create a beautiful card with this stamp set. And I will see you guys in another video soon. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.